Hi, it's Tim Hagen from Progress Coaching. Over the last 30 years, we've come up with a lot of very creative, innovative solutions. And my staff will tell you that I overbuild and I over innovate, and they are 1,000% correct. And one of the things that's happening right now is, AI is prevalent, automation is prevalent. And people are like, oh, what are you guys doing with it? And we're doing a lot with it. Yet I keep coming back to one fundamental thing: what we say and how we communicate with people matters. Let me give you an example. So I was meeting with one of our clients, and a leader ended up saying, well, I just don't think this person gets it. I said, oh, what does that mean? Well, I just don't think they really understand where they want to take their career. I said, where do they want to take their career? Well, I just don't think he really fully grasps what he needs to do to get there. And I'm sitting there like, okay, you haven't said anything. And I said, what does he specifically want to do next? He goes, well, my hopes for him. I said, I got to stop you. What has he said? And the leader couldn't answer it. And that's okay. By the way, great guy, great client. So our whole mission is to help leaders coach. That requires preparation, it requires planning, and it requires practice. And when you think about AI and automation, let me give you a test right now. And give yourself, and be honest with yourself. Put it into the chat if you could, or the comments. I want you to really, really answer this question. Okay. An employee comes up to you, and let's say AI is prevalent in your business right now, and says, is my job safe? You're on. Got to be ready. You got to have that conversation thoughtfully. You may not know exactly what to say. Let me give you another one. I had this 2 years ago. It's actually the third time I've actually had this question in my career. I've got an employee who really has bad body odor. How do I have that conversation? You're on. Got to know what to do or say, potentially. And so we get put into very precarious positions as leaders, right? We just do. So the ultimate goal is, when you think about a speech, what do? You plan. So think about a coaching plan where you understand you can deliver your expectations. You kind of understand where your person who you're coaching, their goals, their current state, their next step, their desired state, whatever that might be. Wow. It seems so trite and theatrical and over the top, yet it works. So how do we do that? How do we craft that plan? How do we know what to say and what to do? And I go back to the following. If you're a leader, knowing what to say and what you're coaching to versus just showing up. And what I mean by that is, a lot of times when we see things, and I just got off the phone with a client in Arizona, a prospective client, a credit union, and they were telling me, oh yeah, we have a coaching framework. It's observational coaching. I said, great. What do you think people observe first? Positive things or negative things? She goes, well, negative. I go, that's a feedback model. That is not a coaching model. And what you're going to be conditioned to do is point out what's wrong. Could be 100% correct. Yet you got to ask yourself, what's the impact? I get the intent. What's the impact? So when we look at, and I want to pull up a design here, and I want to show you what we teach, which is qualms. And so when you're looking at, and let me get rid of that caption real quick. So when we know what to do and say, it makes everything easier. So we teach a 4-step model. We teach 3 different ways to coach. Direct coaching, which is number 1, career coaching, number 2, that's the motivator, and number 3, supplemental coaching. What's interesting about this more than anything is, when you're coaching somebody, let's say their ultimate career goal is to become a CEO or a first-time leader, or to work more in data analytics, whatever it might be. The 4-step coaching conversation model is going to have an expectation or an identified area that you're going to coach to. The biggest challenge that we do as leaders is we try to spray everything. Well, he's got to learn feedback. He's got to get better at this. He's got to get better at that. She needs to get better at that. And if you're coaching to all of that at once, it's too much to assimilate. You're not going to, as an employee being coached, feel that traction. So if I'm coaching someone to become a first-time leader, and let's say they're not overly positive with their teammates, so I might focus on, let's develop your influence with your teammates. And Lisa, I think this will help you with your goal of becoming the CEO of the company or a first-time leader. The learning project could be, Lisa, come in next week with 2 examples of where you were very positive and influential with your teammates. That's it. When Lisa comes in, I'm going to ask questions. What happened? What'd you do? What are you going to do to continue this? What are you learning about yourself? What were some challenges? Oh, it sounds like you and Gary had a tough conversation. Activity. Let's practice that conversation so you get better at it. Learning project. Next week, Lisa, come in with 2 more examples. That's it, everybody. It's a self-fulfilling coaching model. And this direct coaching one-on-one is 8 to 10 minutes, weekly or biweekly. Group, typically 20 to 30. Now, when I understand a motivator, not what I assume, but what I know, I can then bring that into the conversation, such as, Lisa, what if we really accelerated your effort to build out those relationships with your teammates, being viewed as that influential leader? How do you think that might help your goal of? And then you fill in the blank with their career, their motivator. Now, let's also say time is scarce. That's our number one objection. I don't have time to coach. Well, don't tell me that, because then you do not have time to interview replacements. The time doesn't come magically from the clouds. You have to leverage it. Supplemental coaching or prescriptive coaching strategies. So I might say to Lisa, Lisa, what I'd love to have you do is meet with Bob. Bob just became a first-time leader. He went through a coaching progression. He went through a mentoring program. I think he'd be great for you to reach out to every 2 weeks. I also got you a book by John Kotter called My Iceberg is Melting. And it talks a lot about change. And I want you to see which of the penguins you were. It's a fable story. Which of the penguins, who are some of the people around you, and really think about how you're going to be positive, influential, and why this book will serve you well. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, this is really interesting, right? This is a very simple format. So how do we craft coaching plans? When you plan for things, would you honestly get up and do a speech and just not know what you're going to say? Of course not. You'd have an outline. You'd have an introduction, my 3 main bullet points. I'm going to start with the story here. And then at the end of conclusion, I'm going to give people a call to action, whatever that is. That's exactly what a coaching plan is. So when I look at this very simple model, that's exactly what this is. It's a blueprint. It's a coaching plan. And this is exactly what we need to do to drive coaching conversations. Now, why do I think that's more important than ever? AI is here. I promise you. And we use AI. We build AI. We are all for AI. Do not take this the wrong way. We are not against AI. Matter of fact, I build AI. Matter of fact, we're going to tease you a little bit at the end. We actually have a tool that actually now builds out, it's an artificial intelligence tool, builds out coaching plans against the framework I just showed you. And our clients are like, oh my gosh, let me quote one client. Between 2 initiatives, we took their sales model and we took, I think, their customer service model. And they said, we got to build coaching plans for this so our leaders know how to support our service models and our sales approach. I said, send it to me. And they're a customer of ours. Like, what do you mean? I was done. I saved them, according to them, over 40 hours of development time. So what's happening is behind the scenes, we're using AI. We use AI in the front end. But what happens is when technology goes up, everybody, so does the need for human connection. How do I know that? Think about the pandemic, right? We all went from, oh, this is terrible. I can't go into the office, and oh, I got to set up at home, and oh, the kids are here. And it was disruptive to all of us. Yet something interesting happened. One of our clients was mid 90%. They hated the virtual world. They hated working from home. Within 2 years, that flipped. They were down, I think, at around 92%. I love this hybrid world. I get to work at home. I'm not paying for gas. I'm working 6 hours instead of 8 hours. There's no interruptions. Yet, what did everybody crave when the pandemic started to subside and or end? Human connection. Oh, I can't wait to get into the office. The same thing's going to happen. So we actually just had this. I actually have been using this as a predictive statement. And the predictive statement is, I said, we're going to have all these great AI tools, and I am all for them. We built them. But we can't let that absolve. If you're a leader, if you're in HR, if you're in training, you cannot absolve that from the conversation our leaders need to have. And it just happened. They were using an AI tool at this company. The leader was using it, and the HR manager, who's a friend of mine, called me up and said, "You know how you've been predicting this?" And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "It happened. This guy just fell in love with AI, not for the right reasons, maybe not for the wrong reasons." And he had people going through all these AI coaching modules. Awesome. We've got the same thing. And then he did his mid-year review. It was so out of alignment with the coaching tool. And he put the person as average. I think it was, the typical 5-point scale. The person was about, five on a 5-point scale, 3s across the board. And this person's like, "You got to be kidding me. I'm getting all this great feedback from the coaching tool," which the leader doesn't see. "And now you're going to tell me I'm average, my mid-year, I'm just doing my job?" Those were the comments of the employee. Now, the leader's not wrong for using the tool, but what that employee is saying is, hold on a second. You're throwing technology at me, but you as a human are doing my mid-year or end of the year review, in this case, mid-year review. And it was completely out of sequence. Now, someone could argue, "Oh, but the AI tool we use, we get a report, we get a summarization." I get it. Yet what that employee was really saying was, "We used to spend time together. I want to get better at this. I want to practice this conversation I need to have with Bob," or whatever the case might be. AI is going to do a lot of great things for us. Yet what it's going to do is it's going to create some discord too. It's going to create some wedges. The wedges will be cleared up. It'll work itself out. But we cannot forget what we say matters. How we say it matters. So let me give you another example. I think now in 4 different companies, we've had, and it's really funny because we've had it in agriculture, we've had it in credit unions, and then one was in manufacturing. I ended up bringing this up as a hypothetical because we actually heard it from one client. And that is, "I just want to do my job and go home." How do you react to that, Tim? So I role played it right on the spot because I'm good. I'm really good at this. Now, that sounds horrible, doesn't it? The reason I say that is I'm well practiced. I prepared. I plan for stuff. So there's very rarely will I get stumped. It doesn't mean I do coaching better than other people because that can come off the wrong way. But you have to prepare. So I role played it. I practiced, and people are like, "Oh, it's really cool." I said, just wanting to do my job and go home means different things for different people. So let's think about this up here. Leaders, right? They have to have those conversations. Employees below leaders are having the conversations. So when I role played it, we kind of evaluated what I did well and what I needed to do better. And I certainly got feedback, which was awesome. And then what we ended up realizing is one of the leaders raised his hand. He goes, "Hold on a second. That's me. I love this company. I love my boss. I love the people that work with me. I love what we stand for here. I love my job. That's not a negative thing." I said, "I never said it was." And I started smiling. He goes, "Oh," we all started laughing. I go, "It's cool that you brought that up, right?" But what do we tend to do? We assume, we label, we judge, we tell other people. So how do I know that? So I didn't plan on this, but at all 4 companies I went to, we do employee coachability series where we teach people how to seek and accept feedback. What was really, really interesting is what we ended up doing is going to the employees and say, "You hear an employee, a teammate make this statement. What are your first thoughts?" 73% across 4 vastly different companies said, "Negative attitude, should be fired, needs to be written up, not a team player, negative, they need an attitude adjustment." They went right to leaping to this labeling and judging. Who does that undermine? It undermines who? It undermines the leader. It undermines you. It undermines you, training leader. It undermines you, Mr. or Mrs. HR leader. It undermines all of us. Not because they're bad people, they just don't have the conversation. So when you hear a teammate within earshot say, "I just want to do my job and go home," they might have a sick kid at home. They might have a relative that they're caring for, but people are quick. So now, if a leader says, "Well, I didn't know how to respond to it, so I didn't say anything," guess what the employees just heard? "Good, I'm okay. I don't have to put in extra work. I just want to do my job and go home." Cool. They wouldn't be wrong. It requires conversation. So the biggest thing that we can do is to have these conversations. So when I role played on the spot, I asked the person, I said, so what's the ultimate goal that you have with your career? And the person goes, just want to do my job and go home, like I said. I said, oh, awesome. I said, well, let me ask you this. I said, what do you want from a boss that you've never had before or a company? The guy goes, well, I want a fair pay. I want to get a good annual wage increase. I want a boss that respects me and accepts my ideas. So during the role play, I put my hand out here and I did this to reference it later. And someone goes, why did you do that? I go, remember when this was said? That's a red flag. I just want to do my job and go home, whatever that means to this person, but you better pay me. You better listen to my ideas and you better respect me. I said, there could be something countering there that we can dive into, but you don't solve everything in every conversation. So then I went on and asked the person, what are some things you love to do at home? The person role playing saying, I like to work in old vintage cars. I said, have you met Jim? He does the same thing at the company. He goes, really? And I said, yeah, and bring them together. And this was the manager who was role playing so he could have the conversation. I've had the same conversation at 4 different companies. What we tend to do is we hear, we emotionally react, we trigger. So think about this. Let me test you right now. I don't know where you are politically, right? I love Donald Trump. How did you react? You heard something, right? I love Joe Biden. Depending on where you are politically, you potentially had a reaction, right? So what happens is when we hear things, I just want to do my job and go home, it can trigger an emotional reaction. We can go into labeling, we can go into assumptions, and we can go into judging. What if we could create plans around our expectations, understand our employees' goals, and combine those two into a collaborative effort? So here's the thing I want to share with all of you. When you know what to say and do, and it's targeted, it's just like a speech. It's just a different stage. Coaching's just a different stage. If somebody wants to become a leader, and like my prior example, Lisa needs to be more influential with their teammates, yet I know she wants to become a future leader, maybe a first-time leader, maybe an executive down the road. Wow, that is a game changer. It seems trite. What we tend to do as leaders is focus on only one part of the equation, expectations. So when I start working with clients, I ask people, when I define what the motivator is, what is their motivator? Over 80% of people don't know because we are coaching to the job. We've got to manage that job. We've got to drive the strategy that comes from the executive team. Those are all valid things to do. Yet if you can get someone who has a personal investment and a willingness to meet your expectations, knowing it's going to help them go where they want to go, that is a powerful combination. So let me just share this with you very quickly, if I could, is if you are intrigued by this, click on this, and let me get rid of those captions for you. If you are intrigued by this, take your phone out, get some information on our coaching plan. We really call it our coaching blueprint services, where we will actually create a blueprint, a 48-week coaching plan specific to your expectations, specific to the person's goals and aspirations. If you want us to bring DISC or EQ or MBTI assessments into play, easy for us to do. We have built our own tool that allows us to do this. If you're intrigued by this, fill out this form. There's some other information that you would share with us. The one thing I would share with all of you is that it is something that is very easy for us to do, but more importantly, you're grabbing onto that framework that I showed you, that multicolored framework, this. So we always designed it in this fashion. So again, if you're interested, get your phones out, create this, grab this form or this QR code, fill out the form, and just share with us what, what you might want to learn. Because when you have a plan and you know exactly what questions, what activities, what learning projects to use, how to coach to their motivator, what are my supplemental coaching strategies as it relates to this person versus this person or this person, the coaching becomes easier for your leaders. So grab it again, grab this form, fill it out. We'll get back to you with information. We'll send it to you. I think it'll blow you away at how easy we can make coaching easier for your leaders. Thanks for your time. Put your comments in. I can answer any of them, or if you want to send me an email, tim@progresscoachingleader.com, be happy to share it with you. I hope this met your expectations. When you prepare, plan, and practice, everything gets better for leaders. Time will be a barrier in many people's minds, but I always leave you with this: the more you coach, the less you have to manage. Thanks, everybody.